You join me down here at the stunning Milton Abbas Lake. It's your classic, typical estate lake. It's weedy, it's silty. I'm going to run you through the exact sort of approach that I take on these style lakes, and hopefully we'll put a few more of these on the bank. So when I'm on my lap, I like to give each area a little bit of time. I see a lot of people that go from swim to swim to swim, only giving it a few seconds in each swim. What I've noticed is sometimes you think there's nothing there. You give it sort of 5-10 minutes, you might spot one, and then you'll soon spot the mother load, which is exactly what's happened just down there. I'm going to carry on walking, just check there's not more fish up here, but pretty sure that's where I'll end up down there. But yeah, literally we were down there for probably, I don't know, 5 minutes, and we hadn't seen a lot. Then we saw one, then two, then three, and before we know it, there was 20 or 30 fish out in front of me. So yeah, give each area of the lake a little bit of time. An absolute vital piece of kit for fishing anywhere really, but especially these clear estate lakes, is a pair of good polarized sunglasses. I mean, first and foremost, before anything else, we need to find the fish. We can find the fish, we're pretty much all the way there. We just got to put all the little pieces together and try and bank one or two of them. Another little tip I give on these sort of quiet, clear estate lakes is once you've found the fish, which we quite clearly have here, is I wouldn't commit yourself straight away. I wouldn't go and set your bivvy up, put 5 kilos of bait out, and go from there. What I would suggest is just ping a couple of rods out, see how the fish respond, and then decide on what you're going to do then. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm probably going to chuck one out here. We've seen a few fish. I've seen a few fish sort of out here to my left. I'm going to put probably a rod on each, a few boilies over the top, put the rods on the floor, stone on the spool, give it an hour, see how the fish react to that. And if they're still hanging around in an hour's time, I'll probably set the bivvy up, yeah, and put a bit more bait in and see, sort of see what the night and tomorrow morning bring. If they do the off, then we'll be off looking again, and I might sort of head towards the deeper water and commit a bit more bait for the night down there. As I tend to try and find the clearer areas in the lake to fish over, I've opted to use a leg clip setup. I prefer this setup over a helicopter purely because the hooking potential I believe is better, and I feel like with the way I fish the foam and the boom, is the rig does get pushed away from the lead. Obviously, if I'm struggling to find clear areas, like later in the summer when the weed does build up, I will switch over to a helicopter setup. But for now, there's plenty of clear spots. We've had a good look round, yeah, and I've opted for this lead setup, and it's worked for me so far. So there's actually a leader band here at Milton Abbas. So I've opted to fish 18-pound fluorocarbon straight through. I've slid a couple of sinkers, some tungsten sinkers up onto that main line, and moulded a couple of bits of putty around them. This will just make sure that the last sort of 3 or 4 foot are pinned down on the deck, well out of the way of the fish. And the sort of natural properties of fluorocarbon, it sinks really well, better than mono, far better than mono. So I'll slacken that line right off to make sure I get that line hugging the contours of the bottom, just keeping it out of the way of any sort of nearby fish. So I find on venues like this, using a balanced hook base a definite edge for a couple of reasons. One, it's the lightest hook bait there, and I feel like it converts more pickups. And two, because it is generally even the clearer areas are silty or little low-lying bits of weed, once your foam dissolves, because it's balanced, it will slowly settle on sort of any debris on the bottom. Yeah, and either a wafter or like I've done here, I've drilled out a hard hook bait, pressed a little NS1 mini. I've chose white for this one. That's what I've actually had a couple of bites on. So yeah, that's one of my little tips for hook baits on venues like Milton Abbas. Right, I'm just going to run you through the rig I'm using today on this session. I start off with a uncoated section of braid on my hook end, which is the hair's trapped in place with a small whipping knot. I've got a fairly long section of shrink tube, which I've sort of curved over noodle style. This is then looped to around about an 8-inch boom made out of 15-pound fluorocarbon. I use a slightly longer boom for this sort of style of venue, just purely because it needs to sort of lie over soft silt and low-lying weed. And then I've got an anti-tangle sleeve, which should hopefully, with the balanced hook bait, push everything out once that foam's dissolved and come up to the surface. So a real vital piece of equipment that I use when fishing these venues is the dissolving rig foam. I literally wouldn't cast out in a lake like this without it. I just want that lead to hit the bottom. I want everything to be popped up above any low-lying debris. And then once that foam pops off, I just know that everything's going to settle nicely and I'll be presented as good as possible. So with the foam, I tend to cut one piece in half, and rather than wrap a whole piece round the hook, I'll actually put 2 bits on, and I find by doing that, when it does break free in the water, it comes off the hook rather than hang around by just hanging around on the point. Going on to casting, sort of there's this opinion that you don't want to be casting more than once. Which is true. If you can get it out first time, brilliant, but that's not always the case. I would rather take 2 or 3 attempts, make sure you get it absolutely bang on those clear spots, because it's no good fishing into a load of weeds sort of short or too far of the clear spot. So what I'm trying to say is make sure you get that absolutely bang on. If it takes 2 or 3 attempts, don't worry. So the thing is with these estate lakes is they've had years and years of build up of silt, and baits can become susceptible to taking on that silty smell. I mean, in like years gone by, I've reeled in hook baits and they literally absolutely stink of silt where it's taken that smell on. And the beauty of the pro-stim liver, it's so pungent, it's so stinky. Like as soon as you open the bag, you notice it. And I've noticed that it still comes in smelling of that in the morning, even though it probably has taken on a bit of the silt. The actual aroma of the bait is still there, and I think that's a massive edge, especially when you're getting those early morning bites and your bait's been out all night. So this scaly Milton Abbas mirror is just proof that if you get your tactics, rigs and bait right on venues like this, you should put 1 or 2 more fish on the bank. Hopefully what you've seen here today will do exactly that for you guys. If you like the content you've seen today, remember to give the channel a like and subscribe.